Hey there. Before we get this train a-rollin', I would like to thank some people. People like Alan Bruck, Andrew McNeil, Shane Ferguson, Michael Calder, and Brendan Hidman. All of these people have gone to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv and kicked us some money and helped us out. That supports this show and a whole bunch of other shows, and you get a whole bunch of bonus content for doing it. Once again, that is patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv.
My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Cole Ross.
And you're listening to Watch Out for Fireballs. It is a Games Club podcast.
And all aboard, this week we are talking about Monster Train.
Choo-choo.
Choo-choo.
Motherfuckers. All aboard, motherfuckers.
Yeah, this is a roguelike deck builder game developed by Shiny Shoe and published by Good Shepherd Entertainment for the PC and Xbox in 2020.
Yeah, this is executive produced. This episode was produced by William. Mm-hmm. Thank you, William.
Yeah.
I love this video game.
I never would have paid attention to this. I heard Ben describe it on the level, and he seemed to like it, but it looked a little bit too close to something like Slay the Spire or Hearthstone for me. No, it's different and cool.
And I like Slay the Spire as well. Mm-hmm. I haven't played Hearthstone, so I don't know about that one. But this is so up my alley as to be. Like, I've been saving this for Gary Nip. And, for perpetual games, a general rule when we do them for the show is we play for 20 hours. Mm-hmm. And let me check my old play clock, because I think it's like 35
hopping
or
on
something.
Hopping on the Steam there, taking a look, yeah.
Yeah, I played more of this than I needed to for the show because I was so enamored with it.
Yeah.
44 hours.
Wow, zowie.
So, some of that was leaving it on, like got up and went, dinner or whatever.
The usual Steam unreliability on the hour count.
Yeah, but I put a lot of hours in this because I thought it was neat.
Mm-hmm. It is neat. You play as the forces of hell. You're the good guys, don't worry. It's not like super edgy or anything. You're attempting to unfreeze your home because them dang old angels, they froze it over.
They did.
Yeah.
And the way that you do this is you take your pyre, which is the last little bit of flame in hell, to the core of the realm aboard a train called the Bone Splitter. And doing while you're taking it there, you're going to be besieged by Heaven's forces, and you have to defend your pyre.
It might be the Bone Shaker. Is it the Bone Shaker or the Bone Splitter?
I think it's actually the Bone Shaker.
The Bone Shaker.
Bone Splitter in the notes, but I think it is the Bone Shaker. But to your next note, it don't matter.
Yeah. I don't want to offend anybody who likes the story or anybody who had a hand in making it. This does have a lot of lore to it. Like, each card has a little description. It's so secondary to what's coolest about this.
When it's really wordy too. I was kind of surprised, like when I turned on lore and it was like having to read a Metroid Prime log for every card. and not having to, but having a Metroid Prime log. Like, it was beefy paragraphs. And I was just like, the way that Magic does this, which is the closest, comparison I had for that kind of like flavor text, is like a quote. It'll have like a little quote or like a tiny little scene, but it would be very brief. And then you would put it all together. These are codex entries. Mm-hmm. And I'm not necessarily here for a codex, even though some of these things do have cool flavor.
Yeah. So we're not going to be talking about that a whole lot. There'll be a little bit more when we talk about the clans and the bosses and champions and stuff like that. But understand that just because we are not talking about it doesn't mean it's not there if you want to go look for it.
Yeah. If you want to look for it, or if you're listening and you happen to work on the game. Mm-hmm. No offense intended. I love this video game. Mm-hmm. So this is our roguelike structure for this episode. We're going to hit the loop. We're going to talk about the development, and then we're going to go and talk about the clans and the champions, the bosses, which are the kind of the particulars. So kind of zooming out and then zooming in. And kind of the meta strategies.
But as part of that zoom, as we talk about kind of just the broad mechanics, we're going to start at the closest level of zoom here, most zoomed in, talking about the battles, and then we're going to pull out to like the meta game, what you are working toward between your runs. Because this is actually like really breezy as far as roguelikes go.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of progress, and the way that they can get away with that is through like a covenant, ascension kind of system to it, which I always like as an option.
Yeah,
because I tend to engage with it a little bit and then stop. I feel good about that.
Yeah.
So this is you are defending 3 levels of your train, with a 4th level that you don't defend directly that has your pyre. Enemies enter at the bottom on the right side, usually, and they move up usually 1 floor per round.
Yes.
If they survive. So they're, the enemy is deploying critters, entities in that zone, and you are deploying countermeasures. If they reach your pyre up at the top, they'll attack it. Your pyre counts as a creature. It will retaliate, but its health doesn't regenerate. Between battles, naturally. So either, the enemy will die or your pyre will die. And if your pyre dies, that's it for you. If the enemy dies, then you either go on to the next round or you won the battle if it was the boss.
Yeah. So this is, your job is to protect the pyre, and you do this. You have cards that you draw. This is a deck builder. And cards will either summon units or cast spells. Each of those is represented by a card. You draw 5 at a time and you play them, and there's like a mana cost. Although in this game it's called Ember.
Ember, yeah. And deck builder is not such a big genre that people automatically know what that is. It's a game where you start off with a card game like something like Magic or what have you, but where you start off with a small number of weak cards, and throughout the game you get new cards and kind of call weak cards from your deck. So you end the game with a specific deck that you have, but each time is different. You go through it is a game to build your deck. It's not like Magic where you build a thing in your off time and then bring it to a challenge.
Yeah, and part of that process, and something that happens with this in the roguelike structure, is as you progress through a particular run, you're given choices between usually 3 cards, maybe 2 cards at a time, or you're going to be buying them. This is a game that is constantly, and a type of game that is constantly forcing you to make decisions.
Interesting, meaningful decisions.
Yes,
that are fun to make and jump the power curve. Like, this is not a very restrained game.
No, not at all.
You make choices, and the things you're choosing look cool and fun usually.
Yeah, and usually what determines what you take is what's available, yes, but also how you are specializing for a particular run, what clan you are, what subset of the powers you're going to be focusing on, stuff like that.
All stuff we will explain.
Yes. So when you summon a unit in, you place them on any of the first 3 floors, and the marching order matters. So this is a little bit, even like visually presented, kind of like Darkest Dungeon a little bit. Where, if you have somebody at the front, they will generally take damage first. And when they die, the next person goes up in turn. There are ways to get around that. There are spells that you can do at the enemy that will select particular targets. But broadly, you want to put durable units in the front, unless you have a build that depends on your guys dying. They really kind of play with every part of the box when it comes to some of these assumptions. And to stop you from just completely overloading a particular floor, each floor has a space allotment, and each unit has a size value. So really powerful units might be bigger and take up more space, meaning you can play fewer of them.
Yeah. So you can think of that a little bit like equipment slots.
Yeah.
If the Magic DNA of this puts you off, think of each floor as having slots like in Mario RPG or something. And you place the characters here, like they have different weights. Yeah. How much room they take up. The units have health and attack. Again, similar to Magic. Sometimes they have armor, which is like Spirit Hearts. This can be bypassed from time to time, and once it's gone, it's gone. But you can also add armor to a unit. You can buff them with armor. But think Spirit Hearts, like an Isaac. Spell cards have a lot of different various effects, and they're really dependent on the clan. So each clan kind of has a couple different mechanics they focus on. And there are 5 clans, as we mentioned. So we will talk about those spells individually when we talk about the clans. But for a creature, for example, everyone gets this Train Steward, who is just a basic creature, takes 1 to cast, takes up 2 spaces, and has 5 attack and 8 health.
Yeah. Pretty straight up the middle of the
road.
road. Yeah.
It's your Goomba.
Yeah. For your spells, broadly, they fall into categories like damage, buff, debuff, and hand and card manipulation, relating to draws, relating to your discard pile, things like that. In addition to size, units also have these Ember mana costs, and that is what determines generally when your round is over. When you run out, you discard your remaining cards in your hand, and then the actual combat goes.
Yeah. And unlike something like Plants vs. Zombies Heroes, or I think this is how Hearthstone is as well, your Ember doesn't increase every turn.
Right.
You have a set like stat. So every turn you have 3 Ember to spend until you buff that with a card or a power-up. Discarded cards will be shuffled back into your deck when the draw pile is empty, so you can get them again. But used creatures, killed units are removed from play. Used spells are just discarded. You can get them again.
Yeah.
Used creatures are gone. So if they die, they're out of play until the next battle. So you can run out of critters.
Yep, and that sucks on longer runs when you are not prepared. Just like you can go and look at your deck and not see the order that they're coming in, but just like what is still available to draw, so you can figure out what your probabilities are. It is a sinking feeling when you look up there and see that you've only got like a Train Steward left.
Yeah, especially, the boss is coming up to the 3rd floor. You thought that the 2nd floor would stop them.
And then you do the quick panicked pyre math. What's the chance I can get out of this round alive? Man. When combat starts, each side's units will attack the enemy going first, generally. And you work through the enemy ranks from front to back, to deducting each attacking card's attack value from the defending card's armor and then their health. Pretty basic.
Yes.
You would understand this if you looked at it.
Yeah, Magic. I keep saying Magic like everyone has played Magic, but just like there's so many card games that have taken off, have done that.
Yeah.
That, Pokemon.
Yeah. That's the closest one for me.
Yeah. So generally, there's just a single exchange, like a volley between the two, and nobody has to die. Like they can survive. If they're rank and file enemies, they will then go to the next floor. At this point, to either fight, either you have defenses there or you don't. However, there are bosses that have a quality called Relentless, and this means the combat continues until either side is dead.
With the caveat being that once the combat begins, you do not get to intervene to either heal or do or cast any spells. You have to hope that your actual units are equipped to overcome. The game is really transparent about how rounds will resolve. You can actually look at the unit and see there will be an X if the combat will resolve with them dying, or there will be a negative number, maybe even a positive number if they're going to be alive after this. So that helps you understand, like, okay, what units am I going to be sending up? Is usually the next thing.
All the randomness is in which cards you get.
Yes.
None of the randomness is in the mechanics. It's all deterministic.
Yeah, there are no dice rolls or coin flips.
Yep, similar to Into the Breach or Slay the Spire in that respect.
Yeah.
Combat has a finite number of waves. You can see how many you have until the final wave, which is usually the boss that has Relentless, and it is tougher. And kind of throughout these rounds, you're trying not just to kind of meet the challenge of the enemies that are there, but you also want to set up your machine, your kind of deck through your clans. So as you go from round to round, battle to battle, the difficulty is going to escalate, but you are also steadily improving and working towards a strategy. Yeah.
Even within a particular round, you need to like develop your floor, like develop basically your tower defense. And most clans have some kind of buff that will accrue through actions. And a lot of these waves, they get more tough as they go along. And what you want is, by the time the boss gets here, to not just have threadbare defenses, but to actually have set things up successfully enough to where they can wipe it out with no problem.
Yeah.
So you can spare your pyre the damage.
Most units will accrue power in some sense, either through dying, coming back to life, or through rejuvenate, or through buffs you give them and everything. You don't really want to be throwing base units at the boss.
Right.
Base in multiple ways, because there's a meta way to improve them as well. You can upgrade the cards.
Yes.
When you're doing this, you're generally building towards a clan's strength, which kind of either goes through their special status effects that they have. Each clan has, shares them. So two clans might share one status effect. Like, so for example, Rage is the signature status effect of the basic clan, the Mario clan, but the last clan also has Rage powers. We'll talk about all those things when we get to the clan. You build around a champion, which we'll talk about. Which will have different kind of build suggestions.
Yes. So that's individual battles. Let's talk about the anatomy of a run. What is the loop for a particular run? We've mentioned these clans. And that is a major part of this, not only picking your main clan at the beginning, but something that is huge about Monster Train as a big differentiator is the fact that you have an allied clan as well.
Yeah, which really contributes to that magic feeling for me. Like, you are straight up playing green-black decks in this, the same way you would in Magic. Your main clan determines the bulk of your cards that you have available at the start and your champion, but you can build towards your backup clan. A lot of times these choices you get between battles will favor one clan or the other. So 3 times per run, you'll get a chance to upgrade and customize your champion. There are 3 total specializations for each champion, and you will get 2 options of them for each run.
Yeah.
So, let's just, to put it really simply, like a character might have like a strength build, a defense build, and like an agility build. That's not true, but let's just to put it in terms that any gamer could understand. And at the beginning of the run, you have the option between strength and agility. And each time you get to one of these nodes, you can upgrade along that path. You can multi-class, which you can just double down on one thing and become very powerful in it. But some of the multi-class options from these are very powerful. Yeah. And work together really, really well.
Yeah.
So it's always worth thinking about that choice.
This is peeking ahead, but something that I really like about Monster Train is that you're not just making these choices blind. You're not going to be aware of like what, merchants or artifacts are going to be coming at you, but you can look down the road and see which versions of the bosses you're going to be fighting, including the last boss. And the last boss is specifically designed to thwart particular kinds of builds. And with that simple piece of information, you can avoid stepping on a rake if you so choose.
Yeah. It's one of those things where this ended up bumping ahead of Slay the Spire for me, because Slay the Spire, you cannot preview your boss, and one of them is just meant to absolutely hard counter a pretty common strategy, and you have no idea if you've been building towards that and you get that character, you're fucked.
Yeah.
This time stop guy, people who played Slay the Spire know what I'm talking about. That is a horribly designed boss. That's like the worst thing about that game. Here, at least you can plan for it, so you can see what's available.
Yeah, and I will step out here and say this. I won't be speaking for you, Gary, because you've played both of them. I've played a little bit of Slay the Spire. It's kind of intimidating. I like Monster Train because it is pretty accommodating. Like, it is definitely a little bit more casual, it feels like. While also doing different things, like the unit placement specifically brings an element of like almost just like a strategy game to this that I appreciate, as opposed to individual one-on-one duel kind of things. So I will own that this game appeals to me more because it is more friendly.
It's easier. Yeah, like I like Slay the Spire quite a bit. This is easier and it's more full of treats. You can get really broken stuff in Slay the Spire, like really fun things, but this is a little bit more out of control, and the swings are a little bit bigger. Yeah. Like when you stumble upon a synergy or stumble upon a broken combo in this, it's really fucking broken.
It's so broken.
Like you're just like, oh, like I'm doing, 87 damage per turn through frostbite, like pretty easily. Oh, and I have a thing that doubles all the frostbite on a unit.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, I got a boss kill at the end. You get rated based on how quickly you kill them, and you can kill them before the final rounds.
It's so
and
fun.
I got a -6 boss thing. I was like, holy shit. You know, that's great. Just through stumbling upon something very broken and fun. This is a good genre and game for gamer treats, which I enjoy.
Yeah.
As a gamer, when I open my mouth, I'd like to see a treat thrown into it. By you,
the developer.
Yeah.
Or if any,
fans.
I won't turn any treats away, regardless of where they come from.
No, I'm not going to look a treat horse in the mouth. Like,
No.
It's a treat trotters. Welcome here.
Yeah.
Welcome to my mouth stable.
You don't get. Geez, don't say mouth stable, please. So you don't get a champion from your allied clan. You really get spells, and you are able to recruit units from those. But it's really important. Like, all of these clans are extremely different, and part of the fun for me was once I unlocked a new one, or once I tried a new one, feeling like I was stepping into an alien world. And also, like, even putting one in the allied slot, it was like, okay, I cannot assume that I will have access to easy regen. How in the world am I going to make these two damage-focused clans work together without any real defense? Stuff like that. You end up, like, solving a bunch of questions that arise when your assumptions about the way things are supposed to work are proved wrong when the combinations are wildly variable, right?
Yeah. And they did something really clever. This is also moving ahead, but it's worth mentioning now in the order in which they introduced them. Because each clan not only has a specialty and kind of an ease of use, but different clans will work better as allies than other clans. And the first clan you get is kind of boring, but it's a really, really dependable ally.
Yeah.
Like the first clan, direct damage, damage buffs, and armor, that's useful to anybody. So it's like by the time you get bored of that clan, you unlock the second one. You can go to the second one, have the first one be your allied clan, and get a significant boost. And then when you get to the third clan, the second clan that you have is a really good ally for that. Because the third clan is very fragile, and the second clan is all beef boys.
Yes.
After that, it gets a little bit more specialized, but there's a really gentle and kind of clever ramp up in the beginning.
Yeah. Love it. So you start out with kind of a dependable amount and variety of cards. You get a few allied cards. You'll get some random allied clan cards after combat. Like, you get packs when you in between battles. Packs of cards where you can choose one of 3, and you can also recruit these allied units along the way. We'll talk about the overworld events when we get there. Another choice that you make at the beginning that will really impact things is the starting artifact. Artifacts will change and make or break your run. There are some of these that I like. When I see them, it's like, oh, it's going to be this kind of party now. Okay.
Yeah. These are things you should prioritize.
Yes.
And this is big Slay the Spire DNA. it is similar in this way. They're just, pretty incredible. Incredible artifacts. You should always aim towards these, basically. It's very rare that I will not, get one of these if the choice presents itself, even if it's just a random one.
Yeah.
And these will be absolutely huge. It's hard to understate how big of an effect these have. In a thing where you start out with 3 ember, 3 mana, you can very easily start out with a thing that's like all your units cost -2. So almost everything's free.
Yeah.
What does my run look like if my creatures are free? Well, I can then buy really expensive spells, because I don't have to worry about getting my units on the board. And I can get more expensive creatures because they'll just be like normals. Things like that.
Yeah.
It's really, really fun to see these. And I still saw new ones even when I stopped.
Yeah.
That I had never seen before. So there's a lot of variety here.
Yeah. And also, like, these, there are some that everybody can get, but there are also ones that are tailored to a particular clan's, kind of special stats and their specialties and their builds and stuff like that, including ones that make it so that like status effects, either buffs or debuffs, don't decay. Things like that. One that's associated with the Hellhorn, because I played, the basic Mario class, because I played with them in my allied slot so often. Like how good is the Unbroken Horn, Gary? The one that conserves your ember between turns.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah,
that's like, really, really good.
Oh, okay. So all of a sudden, I can just save the ember up. And there are cards that end up, instead of doing a fixed amount of damage, they will do damage based on how much ember you have at your disposal. They'll spend it, so it's like a multiplier kind of thing. Like that is a blessed artifact that will absolutely alter a run for you.
Yeah, or the one, any of them where the stats that will decay will not decay. So if you get the like rage does not decay. On the Hellhorn, rage is a temporary buff to attack, but it just makes it not temporary. So adding rage tends to be really cheap, and a lot of units can do it. If you have that artifact, your units will just continually get more attack power throughout the entire run or the entire battle. Incredibly fucking cool.
Yeah.
Really, really fun. And one of the things, when I talked about this game letting you jump the curve, like Monster Train wants you to have fun. It wants to give you really powerful, fun treats. It doesn't want necessarily to be this balanced hardcore thing. And a big part of that is through the artifacts.
Yes. Let's talk about the world that you go through. Just like real hell, the hell in this game has. Wouldn't that be a surprise if I came out believing that hell is real? Oh, like hell, the place where people
but not
go.
Heaven.
Yeah.
Like you just believe in hell.
Yeah.
Like, no. I believe in a God that will eternally torment somebody. Eternity. Yeah, no. You heard me right. Eternity. I think that's reasonable and good, and I think that's something that it makes sense in my cosmology.
Every time you question me, I get more certain.
Yeah, exactly. It is hot in here, and every time you think that, it gets 1 degree hotter.
But yes, hell here consists of 9 rings, just like hell does, beginning in limbo and going toward the frozen core, and you're going to fight 8 total battles in a given run when you cross between the rings.
Yes. And each time you defeat a battle and get to the start of a ring, you choose which track to take, left or right. And you get to see which stops on the side. These are little like Qunity chest. These are little nodes. There every once in a while you'll get something at, it'll be available on both lines at the bottom. So like no matter what, you're getting this. But you're choosing, do I want to recruit a unit, power up my spells and get some money, or do I want to heal my pyre, get rid of some cards in my deck and get a random artifact?
Yeah.
Making choices based on that each time. And it's kind of part of the reason why I find this game so fucking engaging is that like you're constantly making meaningful choices.
Yeah.
Never ending. We talked about Final Fantasy X a little bit, like how frequently you level up in that game. It was when I was younger, when I first played it, I was like, oh, I'm always making cool choices. When we revisited it, it's like, a lot of the time it's like pretty obvious choices.
Progressing down a track. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really not that. But here, like in this type of game, I am always deciding between 2 really cool optimal things that both seem useful. It's so rarely is this a no-brainer. Like, and that felt awesome to me. Like I was such a huge fan of that. Like there would be things I would prioritize, like artifacts, and if my pyre health was full, I'd try to avoid the one with the heal because it doesn't do anything for you. But on that side, there's always something I didn't want to give up. It's all good.
For sure. It's agonizing when your pyre is like at half health, and on one side is the pyre remains, and on the other side there's the horde where you can get a free artifact, and it's like I don't know. Or the
artifact salesman.
Yes.
And it's like fuck, man. Or the actual community chest, like random thing run a spot, which is always great.
Yeah.
It's just like, imagine if you don't play these types of games, imagine like a shooter where like every gun is fun. Like that's what this feels like. It's every power up is not just effective and cool, but like pretty fun to use, and you're excited to get it. Every level up feels great.
Yeah.
None of this 0.3% frost damage horse shit. Like this is a small numbers RPG. Every upgrade you get is significant as hell. And that's such a good fucking feeling. No dead levels.
No dead levels. Love it. Yeah. So there's no need to go through like every single thing that you can do, but this is a point where we should mention that there are merchants. We talked about the artifacts, and there are they're differentiated. So like there are spell merchants, there are unit merchants, there are artifact merchants. After battles, depending on your performance, you're getting coins. There are also like special units that you can go out of the way to kill. That will give you little bonuses.
Diaper cherubs.
Yeah, little diaper babies. Yeah,
little diaper babies, and you just gotta kill the diaper baby before he steals your money.
Yeah. It's worth saving a little bit though, because as you go along, the things get more expensive.
Well, and at the end of every run before the final boss, there's always an artifact salesman, which is a chance to blow a lot of money. It reminded me of Hades a lot in that respect. There's always the high value shop.
Yes.
At the end.
Yeah.
So as we mentioned, these are a couple things that you can get. You can either get an artifact, choice of that, heal your pyre, get a unit. The thing you mentioned, merchants. The interesting thing about merchants is, in addition to upgrading things, you can also re-roll just once the things on offer, and then you can pay an escalating price to get rid of cards from your deck. The opportunity cost of card draw is something that is like kind of a 201 concept, that doesn't apply to a lot of other games. But the idea being is that it is a resource to pull a card. So if you're pulling something shitty, you pull that instead of something good.
Yeah.
So you want to increase the chances that your deck has powerful pulls, like you get the stuff that you want.
Yeah, so
through that.
For example, over the course of a run, as you recruit more powerful units that are from within your clan, either your main or your allied, you might want to start purging those train stewards, those automata, the basic units, because every time you draw, you could get one of those instead of the things that you might have spent resources on. Or you would want to, draw something that will mature, right, early on, so you can place it. It sucks to draw a train steward when you were really hoping for something else. Same thing with low-level spells, right?
Yeah. Most of the clans have a shitty version of their spell, and then a better version you can get. And you usually want to purge the shitty versions if you can.
Along with that, there are two of the special events that you can go to, either the Hell Vent or the Unstable Vortex. The Vortex will let you discard 2 cards for free, or purge 2 cards for free, whereas the Hell Vent will duplicate a single card that isn't a champion, and this is really important. It will duplicate it, including the upgrades that you have put on it.
Yes. Upgrades, or it could be a rare card or a unique card that you got from the Concealed Caverns, which is like your straight up community chest.
Yes.
Random events that have trade-offs, but tend to be really good. Like you can make something really good come out of these. Every once, very rarely I would get something where it's like, this doesn't really fit into my run. Most of the time though, the results of these things are very powerful.
Yeah.
Either like you'll get some kind of curse cards in your deck in exchange for like a huge benefit, or you'll get a lot of money, or you'll get an artifact in exchange for some health, things like that.
Yeah. Let's talk about upgrading and kind of how you grow within a run from the outer ring to the inner ring, right? Because you're attempting to bolster your ranks, not just with new units and spells and stuff like that. So you can clear the borders. You also want to make the individual ones that you get stronger. What's important about this is that the only damage that stays between runs is damage that is done to your pyre, right?
Yeah.
So like if you just barely win and you lose all of your units, but your pyre stays strong, well, C gets a degree, right? You can start over fresh as a daisy the next time you have an encounter.
Yeah, it's very rare. There are cards that will permanently buff or debuff on their own between runs, but it's very rare.
Yes.
And it's almost always permanently buff. Like the ones that play with that mechanic almost only get better. By default, each card, unit and spell both have 2 upgrade slots. And they only apply to that individual copy of the card. So let's say you have, you start with 4 train stewards, you give the battle upgrade to them to give them +10 attack and +10 health. That only happens to one of your cards. But if you then copy that train steward, you'll get a copy of that with the upgrade. It's not good to put points into train stewards, but
Yeah.
it's just useful because everybody has one.
Yeah.
It's like how everybody masturbates or everybody poops.
Yeah.
It's a children's book. Everybody has train stewards. There's just that dork on the front, the train steward with his bad posture.
Yep. Yeah. Unless you get the artifact that turns train stewards into absolute beasts with damage shield, in which case that changes things to a substantial degree.
They become good.
Yeah. So you purchase these upgrade stones at shops. And some upgrades are only available when a certain clan is in play. Like, it would make any sense to like get an upgrade that messes with burnout if you're not playing the Melting Remnant, right?
Yeah. Yep. You can upgrade really basic things. So like attack, health, armor, and then their size. And then there are also modifiers, which tend to be more expensive to upgrade and more powerful. So quick means you go before the enemy. Multi-strike means you attack twice. You can make endless, which means when they're defeated, they go back into your hand instead of being put into out of the game, which is great. I had a lot of really broken things by putting endless on somebody who had a good death effect.
Man, yeah, just endless for units, and then for spells, I forget what it is, but when you use hold over, yeah, and it just goes right back on top of the deck.
Yeah. So it stays in your hand, so it just becomes a spell you can use every turn.
So like
making and they're expensive but super fucking cool.
Yeah, but also you can use one of your upgrade slots to reduce the cost. So like when you're playing the Stygian Guard, which is kind of the mage clan, one of the early unlocks you can get is a spell that does like 90 damage to every enemy unit, but it only works on the upper floor. And so you can make that free and also make it holdover, and then nobody can get close to your pyre because every single round you are doing 90 damage to anybody who is up there.
Yeah.
Again, to show exactly how broken these synergies can get and how powerful the upgrades are.
Just phenomenally cool.
Yeah.
Really, really fun. You pay for it, but it's worth it. You can also add consume to a spell, or it can have consume naturally. You can also remove consume, and consume makes a spell treats it like a unit. Once you use it, it's gone for the rest of the battle. There's also purge, which when you use the spell or unit, it's gone from the game. Purge is rarer, but it does pop up sometimes. Yeah,
purge generally comes with extremely powerful or rare cards that you get from the concealed caverns from those special events. Yeah. Sometimes they're like powerful potions is what they're coded as in the game, at least visually.
So as you progress towards the core, going through these battles, you're going to do battles between each ring. The battle can be made more difficult by opting into a battle effect. I love this. I love that this isn't like a global modifier that you put on at the beginning of a run. Like a Supergiant way. These are basically Supergiant style debuffs for you to get a bigger benefit in response, but you choose them a la carte. So you say, okay, every enemy that I fight in this could have +4 damage, but in exchange, I'm going to get a random artifact or a draft of a unit or an extra 75 gold or whatever. And you can choose based on your strength. So if it's the first battle, maybe you don't want to take every enemy gets multi-strike. Because that will fucking kill you because all you have is train stewards. But if it's the later in the game and you're doing really well, like maybe you could tank that. I just really love that this is just literally a toggle you choose before you opt into the battle.
Like before each battle, like when you're attacked, you can see the mix of units that are there. Like enemies attack in gangs, which are just kind of these preset mixtures of people. So you can actually like tell, okay, here's roughly what I'm going to be going up against. These guys are they're spiked, so maybe I don't want to be taking so much damage, or I don't want to take any kind of thing, any kind of debuff that will result in me attacking more times to kill things, because I'll do more damage. So
or that buffs their spikes or whatever, or like these guys are really armored, so I cannot take the thing that lets them heal between floors.
Yes.
Versus these guys are really weak. It doesn't really matter if they heal between floors.
Yeah. So again, the game is giving you the information that you need to make these kind of educated choices, clear trade-offs that are available to you. Clear trade-offs are a big thumbs up from Watch Out for Fireballs. Yeah.
Making decisions with information, you know, is really good for mechanics. Making decisions with imperfect information, really good for narratives.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's the I want
it.
my narratives to be unpredictable and tragic. I want my tactics to be tight and satisfying.
Exactly. So after each battle, you get experience points, you get money. Your score is kind of rated based on like how much if your pyre took damage, how quickly you defeated the boss, things like that. You also get two clan packs, one for your main clan, one for the ally clan. You just get to choose one of 3 random cards for each, so you're always adding new things, either spells or units, after every fight.
Yeah. And when we say experience, this comes up later, but it's not experience for that run. That is how you unlock the meta.
Yes.
So the experience you get from battles is how you're going to unlock cards and clans and champions and such. The third and sixth fight are boss battles, which have it's a longer battle with waves of normal enemies, usually with this kind of global modifier and a powerful enemy that kind of flutters between floors, buffing or attacking until they get to the last little bit, and then they become relentless.
Yeah. And each boss, just so they don't get old, they've got kind of like random versions. There are 3 different battle effects that they can have. So you might get the version of Daedalus, the one who summons explosives, who like summons in explosives that have additional damage shields, or you could summon 2 of them in at a time. And you can look ahead and see which one of these you're gonna get.
Yeah. Yep. Once you beat the boss here, your pyre upgrades, does more attack and has more health. And then you pick between 3 permanent boons, either an extra ember, an extra card draw, or more space per floor. I have no idea if I was doing this optimally. I never picked extra card draw.
No.
During this whole thing. And when I was looking online, people were like, yeah, card draw is the hardest thing to get, to get in the game. And I'm like, yeah, but also I'm doing pretty good with more space and doing more space for the first one and then ember for the second one.
Yeah.
Consistently.
The one time I could see it being most useful is either for the Stygian Guard, if you get anything that makes the lower level spells free. Because like you can have as many card draws as you want, but if you don't have the ember to actually use what's there, it's just going to end up cycling through the discard anyway. So it feels unsatisfying at the very least, right? It would also make sense for the Umbra, or rather the I forget what it is, the
Penumbra.
Yes, for the Penumbra, which relies on getting a ton of morsel units, and your deck is going to be mostly little buddies who will be eaten to buff your guys.
Yeah. With that, it felt like I wanted the extra space on the floor so badly with the Penumbra. Like, I could understand what they were going for with this as a trade-off, but it just felt like even the unit, the clans I would maybe want the card draw for, I wanted the other things more.
Yeah. Additionally, like I ended up taking extra ember quite frequently, especially early on, because if you have strong units that require 3 ember, you can't do anything else that turn unless it's a free card. So but like even just that first upgrade is a huge deal for you.
Yeah, these are both very meaningful upgrades. I think the reason why the internet was saying card draw was advantageous is because you don't get it from a Concealed Caverns event.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas you can get their Concealed Cavern events that will give you +1 ember and +1 space on all your floors, as well as like artifacts that will fuck with that. But card draw is a little bit harder to get.
Yeah.
You also end up getting rare cards after boss battles. So these are either powerful units or spells. And you unlock these by leveling up your clan with experience between rounds.
Yes. We'll talk about that in the metagame loop. The Gate of the Core is guarded by the run's final boss, a version of kind of the big bad Seraph. They have more variants. They have 4 variants instead of 3. And Seraph is a big deal. And this was something that was actually patched in early on. You were not able to look at the end to see which version of Seraph you're going to get. So each of Seraph's 4 builds are meant to shut out one kind of run. Each of Seraph's 4 versions is meant to block out one kind of build on your part. There we go.
Yes. Yeah. And it's really great that they made that transparent. That was something that Into the Breach,
Yes.
and like Slay the Spire, but Into the Breach, I remember being the first game where people were like, hey, what if we just tell the player what the enemy's going to do?
Yeah.
That is not a bug.
Right.
That's actually incredible. It makes for better design. So after every run, the 2 clans that you used will gain the experience for the run. And as the clans level up, you'll unlock a new clan card. There are also some non-clan cards that are unlocked as you accumulate XP, kind of colorless cards that work for everyone.
Yep.
And then at level 5, you unlock the Exiled Champion for the clan, which is another champion with a whole new playstyle, 3 different starting builds, new set of starting cards. These were added in.
Yes.
These weren't originally in the game. These were patched in. And also just in, watch out for fireballs, aiming at a moving target fashion. We're recording this before the first major DLC.
Yes.
For this comes out as well, which will has a totally new clan to it. So I'm excited about that. I tried to get in on the beta and did not.
Yeah, it was like a weekend event like here very recently, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I just missed it. Like I want to do this, and they're like, nah, nah, dude.
I'm watching very close for when that DLC comes out.
Oh yeah, I mean, I will master that other clan.
I will. So. I will have it. Yeah. But the Exile Champions are huge. They are either much more specialized or even just like they come out of the gate just a little bit more viable. It feels like. But they require you to look at your clan's power set from a different point of view. Yeah,
like they fully explore the theme of each of these clans.
Yes,
between these 2 champions, it's pretty impressive. When you start out, you only have 2 clans available: the Hellhorned and the Awoken. The Hellhorned is the Mario. The Awoken is like the Beef Mario, like a Wario. Like. And then the other 3 clans are unlocked by meeting certain requirements, like defeating a certain number of enemies across the runs.
Yes.
It's always a really big deal and fun when you unlock a new clan in this, because you're not just getting a new champion or whatever, when you're getting a whole new card set and several new mechanics to play with.
Big deal. And they don't wait to the end of a run to tell you if you've qualified for it. The second that you meet it, you'll get a little message that says, yes, you have a new clan ready for you next time you go. Which I enjoy. Do not delay that gratification, please.
Yeah. Another thing this game does better than some roguelikes to me is the way it does the covenant system.
Yeah.
This is similar to Ascensions or what have you in Slay the Spire. You have covenant ranks that you complete with certain clan combinations. And the cool thing about these, there are 25 of them, and they are generally just challenges, increases challenges, but they're not all challenges, which is the thing I liked about it. Like, you can start out with some extra cards in your deck, and sometimes that can be huge. Like, the first covenant rank is actually a boon for you.
Yeah.
And then they get more difficult in kind of increasingly granular ways. I ended up getting to like Covenant 7 or 8, which I was more looking for the breadth. Why can I? What am I trying to say? It's not breath like breathing.
Yeah, breadth.
Breadth. Like, God, that's a hard word to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. The wideness. I was going for the thickness.
The expansiveness. I was looking for it to get wider, not deeper. Yes.
Yes, I wanted the puddle, not the ocean. When it came to this kind of thing. So, I didn't end up going very far in the covenants. I just wanted to collect all the cards.
Yeah.
Here, the way that you like beat the game, quote unquote, like completely, is to rank up to covenant level 25, and that is how you see the credits. And it's brutal. Like, all the enemies are tougher. You take mandatory damage at your pyre when you start the run, things like that. Like, it's very tough.
The thing for me that made it hard to operate higher than Covenant 1 or 2 was the very, very steep increase in boss HP.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are certain clans where I just found like I am not putting out enough DPS to actually overcome this. So that just meant that I needed to spend more time figuring out how to use their powers. Right.
Yeah, yeah. And you have to have a little bit like more luck.
Sure.
You cease being able to have squeakers. I will never be able to squeak through this. I need to actually absolutely stomp this. for it to work.
Let's talk about the aesthetics and then kind of the some development details about this before we get into the particulars. I at first was really put off by the look of this game.
It's very generic looking to me. It looks very Hearthstone-y, very mobile, like Raid Shadow Legends or something to me.
Yeah. The more time that I spent with it, though, I came to appreciate how versatile the look was for differentiating the units and the clans from each other. So at least that was good and nice. I wouldn't say it's a beautiful game, but I think that the aesthetic is functional and stops it from being like, especially like, grim or monotone, right?
Yeah. It doesn't look like a middle school art project like Slay the Spire does. Like it looks professional. It's just a little anonymous.
Yeah.
And it definitely does the job. Like everything looks different, and it's got a certain kind of tone to it.
Yeah.
That is really silly. Like the people who are made of candles, which is a cool haunting idea, are also gangsters. And like that's real goofy.
Yeah.
That's maybe a little goofy for me to think that's really cool. Even though there are monsters in that look cool. Because people made of candles.
Yeah.
Like Beauty and the Beast scared the shit out of me. Like that little dude.
Lumiere? More like Lumiscare.
Yeah, the original Wax Legion, the little guy. But it does the job. The music, I think, is actually really good.
The music, I've had it like stuck in my head. I've been humming it. It's fantastic. There are lots of tracks too.
Yeah. The post battle music. Like that's really, really good.
Yep.
So really good soundtrack. But it's also largely a game that lives in numbers and such. So it actually works really well as a podcast game. I put this on and listen to audiobooks. So a big portion of my Monster Train experience was learning about the Holocaust.
I was in the middle of, I started rewatching on cinema while I played. So
that would be a great combo.
Yeah. Good.
The vaping Legion.
The Electric Sun faction. Oh man.
Rest in peace.
Oh man, it's a spell. Cost 2 mana. It's called Empty Bottle.
Consume. Yep.
Oh fuck. So about the development, I was not able to find too many details. There's an interview that the lead designer did, and that's where I pulled the information from. I believe it was on Rock Paper Shotgun. The Monster Train was the result of a game jam held by the developer. And the original version was quite different. You were in a castle, not a train, and you were trying to protect treasure. But the bones of the system were there. The biggest difference being that the earliest version was real-time, not turn-based, making it more akin to a tower defense game.
Yeah. Which would change the rhythm of it completely.
Yes.
Like I love tower defense actually, but like I'm glad this is what it is.
Yes.
I guess more. They decided really early on not to make it free to play because they didn't want the game design to lose out to business decisions, which is great. I was much happier just spending, $20 on this or whatever than subscribing to it for 99 cents to get a chance to get packs every month or whatever.
Only being able to play a certain number of rounds in a day.
Yeah, things like that, which would be horrible. There are some online features, Hell Rush mode and daily challenges. I haven't really fucked around with this.
No.
It does tell you like when I would, get to a higher covenant rank, it'd be like, you're higher than this person on your friends list. And I was like, how long has it been? I don't know anybody on my Steam friends list is. I really wish I'd never opted in that. And I've been trying to opt out of it for years. But if that's something that you like, you can do it.
Yeah, that functions on Xbox as well for your gamer tag. This is on Game Pass, if that factors into anybody's kind of calculus. I'll just skip right to the end here. If you have that and there is basically no cost for you picking this up, fucking do it. It's really good.
Yeah, you'd be a fool.
you absolute buffoon. No. So, something that does seem pretty neat is the ability to author challenges. Like you just get access to the tools that will affect a run, and you can generate a little code to send out to friends.
Yeah.
Hell Rush is neat in concept, even if I would never do it because I don't really play games with people. But it's like an asynchronous race mode.
Yeah, just to see how fast you can do it. But I don't really want to play this game to see how fast I can do it.
Nope.
Going back to it not being real time, like that's not a challenge access I'm interested in. We're playing this and talking about it post an update called Friends and Foes, which was released September of last year. That is the one that added new bosses and the additional champion for each clan. That is crazy good for free content.
Yeah.
The additional champion is so transformative. I can say that on this show. And that's Guppy.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
Cool.
All right. Sorry.
For the 300 people maybe who know what that is. But and there's an actual proper DLC coming out called The Last Divinity. It's in development. They had that beta. I didn't get into it. No, I'm not bitter about it. It contains a sixth clan, which I really wanted to be able to talk about for the episode.
And I started this game thinking, I'll play with this and, DLC can come and go. And now I am very hungry for it. So, good on ya. One thing that is kind of yep. One thing that is kind of a bummer is the limited number of platforms that this is available on. Right now, it's only Switch and Xbox platforms, I believe. No, it's only PC and Xbox platforms. This would kill on Switch. This would kill on iOS. One imagines that they are headed in that direction, but I don't know the size of the studio or what their arrangements are for porting and stuff. So.
Yeah. This has been on my radar for so long as Gary Nip. And the reason why I was waiting is because I wanted it on Switch. And if it wasn't for, William having us do it for the show, I wouldn't have taken the plunge. And I'm really glad I did. Yeah. It even got me, like Dicey Dungeons was the other like Gary Nip game I knew existed that I've been waiting to show up on, various mobiles. And I just went ahead and got it.
Yeah, I went and got that. I got that on Switch last night. I used some of my my weird eShop coins that
my platinum points.
I forget that I just go
one Wario buck.
You can buy a game for free because you bought other games. Okay, that's weird. All right.
Yeah, it's so weird that they expire.
Yeah,
like every once in a while I'll get I don't buy like tons of games on there that give me big discounts, and I end up using the discounts as they show up. But I'll get an email and it's just like, you have 34 platinum points, and I'll click on the link and be like, do you want these limited edition Pikmin cups? Fuck no, what are you talking about? Like, what did you say to me?
The fuck?
Yeah. And 600 platinum points to get these limited edition Pikmin cups. And I'm like, this is for somebody. Somebody is buying every first party Nintendo game in order to get Super Pikmin cups. But not me. So we're going to talk about the clans. We're not going to talk about every card because there are tons of them. We're going to talk about the general theme of the cards. We're also not going to talk too much about the clanless spells. These mostly have to do with the train and your pyre. These tend to be pretty basic. There are some neat ones, including one I never got. There's a character you can recruit who's like a cursed character. You can recruit through the concealed cavern. Did you ever get that guy? He's like an illusionist.
No, I didn't.
It's a weird magician you can get. I never got him, and I'm irritated about it. I kept trying to, like yesterday I played a couple runs specifically trying to gain this guy.
Right.
He's the mysterious figure, and he gives you, his name is Dante. Dante the Deceptive. And you get like special cards from this guy. And he is based around like kind of a run archetype that I've never fucked with, which is having more of the negative cards in your deck. He gets more powerful the more negative cards you have. Well, I can't remember what they're called.
Scourges.
The curse cards.
Scourges.
He's like for Scourge decks. And I never quite like did a Scourge deck because I never quite got a lot of synergies for that.
Yeah. Never saw a lot of upsides to those, but apparently they're there.
Yeah. Well, the one that showed up a lot in the concealed caverns for me was like, take two vengeful shards, and you get +1 ember for every 2 Scourge cards you have. So it's like I would get 1 ember every turn at the cost of sometimes drawing a card I had to pay an ember to get rid of.
Yeah.
So unless I was drawing both of them, it was always a net win.
Yeah.
So.
So let's talk about the clans. Starting with the Hellhorned, this is the clan that is available to you from the start. Theme-wise, these are stereotypical devils and demons, and every life form of them, from imps up to like archdemon kind of people. They're all like adapted to this tough life in hell.
Yeah. This is your damage dealing class and your tank class. So these are big boys, big creatures that do a lot of output, a lot of damage output. Sometimes are quite frail, like Glass Cannony. Sometimes can be very tanky. The next clan is much more tanky usually, and they're pretty uncomplicated. These are the Marios.
Yes.
Their special statistic or status effect that you get is rage. When rage is on a unit, their attacks do extra damage equal to how much rage they have, but it decays between rounds.
Yes.
So you can build it up, it will decay. And you can kind of affect this. You can get artifacts that make rage not decay or make it double whenever you apply it, etc.
Yeah. So to say that, like, so say you have a unit with base attack 10 and they have 5 rage on them, they will do 15 when they attack.
Isn't rage two damage?
Maybe.
I think rage is actually 2. So I think in that scenario they do 20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we talk about them being a little bit glass cannony, that is also offset by the fact that their spells and some of their abilities often have to do with armor. So like this is a clan that you like even when you have it in your allied, you're going to be getting spells that will beef up the defenses of units that are around. Yeah.
So temporary offense and temporary defense is kind of the vibe.
Yes.
Here. So like the way you would do a rage build in this is, you're having your units that get more powerful every turn they survive. They get increased rage every time they attack. And you put them in a safe space where they're not going to die. They're guarded by somebody and they're going to be able to attack every round to build up their rage. So the idea is then by the time the boss comes around, you have this incredible amount of rage on this guy and your DPS is just through the roof.
Yes. Yep. And they won't see the second floor. Ideally. Yeah.
Yes.
There's a special unit type for each of these clans. Some of them have multiple, but the Hellhorned, they've got the one. These are the imps. These are cheap. They are meant to be disposable. Generally 1 HP, 1 attack. And they cause a spell-like effect when they're summoned. One of like the most valuable of these is an imp that when you put him in, your front unit gains 20 armor, which is a huge deal.
Yeah, and that can count the imp. You can put the imp there just to absorb 20 attack.
Yes.
If you don't mind losing the imp. These on-summon effects like this can also be altered by artifacts, so you can get artifacts that make these summon effects happen twice, things like that. Very powerful.
Yeah.
And different units have different synergies with imps. So either they will be more powerful if they're imps on their floor, or you can sacrifice an imp to do a special attack, or they do something when an imp dies, etc. The other kind of major pillar of this clan is direct damage. So they have spells that can just damage enemies directly without going through their lines, either targeting individual units or all the units at once, which allow you to kind of like do a sweep damage or take out individual. So the enemy will use marching orders, like they'll have 2 tanks in front of a spellcaster in the back that will heal the tanks. This allows you to make a beeline and just hit the spellcaster directly.
Yeah, or they will put weak units in the middle of their formation. So even after you go through the tank that's at the front, you would be wasting any remaining attacks trying to take out the weak ones. You can thin the ranks so that if you're going to take out the tank, you'll start doing damage to whatever they're protecting in the back much quicker. It's very powerful to be able to surgically thin the ranks like that. And that was something that I missed when I started maining some of the other clans. Yeah. Talking about the champions, Hornbreaker Prince, it's really basic. Even among even among the other champions and their starting, or the other clans and their starting champions. He's a red dude, wields 2 blades. He was born without horns, so he's got something to prove. Got a good old chip on his shoulder,
Well, he wields horns.
Oh, I suppose, yeah.
He has 2 horns from other demons that he uses as weapons. He looks like shitty Hellboy. Like this is a bad first impression for art, I think.
Yes. Yeah.
for this game. So he starts off very vulnerable and kind of has middling stats. But there are 3 upgrade specializations that he can have that all focus around DPS. So Brawler gives him various levels of multi-strike. So it's how many times he attacks, and also gives him armor to kind of protect himself.
Yes.
Armor being like Spirit Hearts, it's not going to last for the whole battle, but it'll allow him to get in and do his multi-strike.
Multi-strike is real powerful. The Reaper variant, you gain some extra attack, but also, and this is ridiculous, your attacks get stronger each time you slay an enemy. So whenever the Hornbreaker Prince kills somebody, or wait, no, is slay when anybody
Slay
kills?
is when you kill.
Okay.
I think
yes.
his might be on strike though. So extinguish is when anybody dies.
Yeah.
Does he get it on strike or does he get it? No, it's on slay.
Yeah, he gets it on slay.
But it's plus 10.
Yeah. So, like whenever I went with this, like Wrathful was the one that Reaper was the one that I went for a lot of the time. Like just the damage ceiling is through the roof if you can keep him alive.
Yeah. We should also mention that you always start with your champion in your starting hand.
And they're always free to play.
Yeah, they're always free to play. The third upgrade here is Wrathful. This is the closest he has to a defensive buff. When he slays, he gets 10 armor, and every time he gets hit, he has a revenge effect. So every time he gets hit, he gains rage. Eventually, this ends up being up to 5.
Yeah.
So every single, he has a lot of armor. He can tank a lot. Every time he gets hit, he gains 10 DPS that will slowly decay. The idea here is if you can put him in a position to get hit a lot, he can strike back really hard.
Yeah.
I never had good luck with Wrathful. Personally, that was my least favorite.
Yeah, definitely. Like the big effect between all these is like, okay, where are you going to put him and play him? Something that is embarrassing every time it happens is when your champion gets wiped out in the first round.
Yeah,
you can survive that. Like it's fine. Usually if you're in round 2 or 3 and you've picked up other specialized units, but it never stops being painful when that happens.
It's a bummer.
Yeah.
The exiled champion for the Hellhorn is more interesting to me. The Shardtail Queen. She is the imp. She's focused on the imp mechanic. She is a Princess Nazca, a queen who ruled over the imps. And her thing is she has kind of better starting stats than the Hornbreaker Prince, and all of her powers have to do with playing units on her floor, like her kind of being a buff unit or a leader unit.
And because imps are so cheap, and she gains a lot of attacks on summon, it means that you're going to want to load your deck with imps so that you can constantly stack these buffs on her. So the trigger for, like when it's called rally, when you gain a stat by summoning an enemy in, so that by summoning an ally in rather, the specialization for that is royalty here at the start here. On rally, when you bring in a new enemy, she gains attack power.
Yep. She'll also get more powerful. She also has Imperialist, which is where she, whenever she does an action, she'll kill all the imps and deal 20 damage per imp to the enemy units.
Yeah.
If you have a big imp deck, that can be incredibly powerful. And the one I ended up using the most was the Imp Parade, which allows you to get free imps.
Yeah.
You'll add imps to your hand, and imps cost -1 to play on her floor. So imps are basically free, and you're getting a bunch of them.
Yes. This helps her actually affect other floors than the one she is on. And that is kind of a rare benefit for many of these champions. Usually, all the benefit is applied directly to where they're at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In this one, you get those imps, which you can use anywhere, but they're cheaper when you use them next to her. So like she would hold down the fort with like a floor full of imps, and then I would have my other units on other floors.
Yes.
She's cool. Like I just find the Hornbreaker Prince really boring. The Shardtail Queen, much more my speed.
Yes. Yeah. Moving on to the next clan, the Awoken, which kills me because I always want to say the Awakened.
Nope, they've been awoken.
This is the clan. This is another clan that's available to you from the start. They are a natural complement to the Hellhorn, which tend to be high damage but low defense. These are high defense but low damage, at least initially.
Yeah, yeah, focusing on healing, regeneration, and then spikes.
Yeah.
The two kind of biggest stats effects spikes are like the universal language for video game spikes. When an enemy attacks, they take damage. And then regen heals your units between rounds. It's just a status buff that degrades.
Yes.
So if you have 3 regen, you'll gain 3 health, then 2 health, then 1 health as it goes down.
Yeah. And both of these make sense because these are plant boys. So,
Yes.
regeneration because of their, growth, and then spikes because they got thorns on them. Yeah. So you've got some, like your tanks are these husk units. They have high HP and they generally are your shield wall. Oftentimes they've got abilities that trigger on attack, which is nice. And your damage is going to come from these special units called Animus, kind of these really spindly dudes that have strong attacks but are extremely flimsy.
Yeah. There's also a key mechanic to this clan called Rejuvenate, which is allows a certain effect to trigger whenever you heal a character, and you can heal them at full. And those husk enemies, a lot of the times, they have 15 health, but when they're summoned in, they get 20, plus 40 max health. So if you can keep rejuvenating them, which you get bonus effects for doing, they eventually become these huge like meat walls.
Yeah.
There are channeler units, which kind of augment spells and status effects and are really flimsy with that. So you put these guys behind meat walls, and they either give you a certain draw every turn or give you, a benefit every turn.
Yeah.
But they're not meant to be attacking units.
Yeah. And when you start maining the Awoken, what you'll notice is this is when you're first going to see that a lack of targetable direct damage spells is a little bit of a problem. Most of them usually just hit the enemy at the front, although they do have the ability, when you can aim it, they will let you move enemies around in the ranks. So you can kind of play Scorpion.
Yes.
You can say, get over here, attack something behind, and then draw them to the front, which is a really powerful benefit too.
This is also the first clan that has what in Magic would be called a cantrip. So you get a card called a Sting, which is a direct damage card. It's free. It does high damage to the front unit, but then it replaces itself on the next round. You get an extra card draw. So, something that comes with a card draw basically replaces itself and is actually free. This clan is kind of meant to illustrate that, because there's another card that's really appealing on the surface. That's just a +3/+3 buff and costs no ember, but it costs a card draw.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of a noob trap. Sure, that's fine. It doesn't hurt, but it hurts because you didn't draw something cooler.
Yes.
Than that.
Yeah. I also like the spreading spores that gives you regen and spikes, and it doubles every time you play it. So as your deck gets thinned out, you end up getting this thing. You can reduce its cost. So you just can always be laying out regen and spikes, leaning into the strengths of the clan.
So there's 2 different champions for this that both suggest different ways to play. These 2 champions have a little bit more overlap, I find, than most of the other sets of champions.
Yeah.
The first one you start with is called the Sentient. So good news about him and bad news about the rest of them. Who is a hollow who is able to get out of the forest by clinging to makeshift shields. And this is the defensive, champion.
Right.
Starts out with no attack. Which means that she's not going to be able to do much other than guard your units, but then has these different benefits, these different builds that will take care of it.
Yeah. Explosive is pretty neat. So this leans into the Rejuvenate trigger. Every time she heals, you deal large amount of damage to the front enemy unit, which turns your basic heal spell, which is just 2 heal and then as Regenerate, into a really powerful attack, especially early on. Which is pretty good.
Yep. Cultivating, which allows you to draw extra cards per turn, and then you cultivate. So the card with the lowest current level of health that you have, adding health and attack. So this allows you to make the hollow more powerful as you go, or whichever unit on that floor is the least powerful gets more powerful.
This is really weird because you have to be careful what you put on the same floor as the Sentient, because, we mentioned the Animus and those channelers. Those start out with really low maximum health. It will always buff whatever has the lowest current health. So you end up with like these beefy Animus and Channeler that aren't able to do too much. Like when the benefit that Cultivate gives, it kind of feels like it should go to make the strongest thing stronger a little bit. Yeah. It like evens out things that should not be, that, you don't get a lot of benefit from being even.
Yeah. And then finally, Bristling, which gives her extra health and adds spikes with each ranks, which means that she's just going to be tanking things, letting enemies kill themselves by running into her.
Yeah.
I'm just going to be moving my spikes like this. If you run into them, it's not my fault.
Yeah. Why are you hitting yourself?
No.
Yeah. And of course, how you play the Sentient depends on which of these specializations you choose. And they all relate to something different. I find maining as the Sentient really hard. I find maining as the Awoken pretty difficult, actually. They are so much better in a support role. But even in a support role, I like the Hellhorned better.
I can kick ass with the other champion.
Yeah.
I have a harder time with the Sentient, but the Wildton.
The Wildenton?
Is Wildenton, Wilden Boys. Much easier for me to take out.
Yeah.
So this is a big, strong boy, big, strong plant. Has a lot of health, again, small amount of attack, but he's bigger than the other ones. He takes up 3 spaces. And again, as I mentioned before, there's some overlap a little bit. He doesn't have a spike thing as his first thing, but he has Thornlord, which is about sting spells and this incant ability, which we haven't run into. So sting spells, you get a certain number to your hand whenever you bring him out. It's 3. And then whenever you do a spell, he gets a certain buff to his attack. So you're always going to be able to casting 3 spells for free. And so if you have him at level 1, you'll automatically get +3 attack from him on top of your sting spells. And any spell you cast will make him stronger.
Yeah. Wild how much more powerful he can get, like, really quickly. Strangler is something that actually makes him a little bit more valuable in upper floors, I would find. So you get sweep attacks. This will hit every single enemy in a row. It doesn't diminish the damage that he does. Like, it doesn't split a 3 attack, between 3 enemies and do 1 apiece. So it's just a straight up multiplier, which is really valuable. However, in addition to the sweep, you get it will apply the rooted effect. This is a status effect that will keep them from ascending to the next level of the train after combat. So it will hold them in place between multiple rounds.
Yeah. And then my favorite, which is Predator here, which gives quick, which means you attack before the enemy, and then multi-strike. And then when you also have enchant, grant quick, which means everyone on that floor gets quick. This with a dab of Strangler.
Yeah.
So you sweep and apply rooted is just incredible.
Yep.
Like quick and multi-strike and sweep and rooted is very, very good with some other high powerful because this clan has the Animus, and if the Animus is quick, they're laughing, if they get in that Alpha Strike.
Yeah, I mean, quick. You cannot overstate how useful it is, because if you're able to wipe out an enemy before they attack, you don't take any damage on that round, right?
Yeah.
So
incredibly cool. Like I like this champion quite a bit.
And it kind of offsets a bit of a weakness of the clan overall. Like, it brings more direct damage in. Makes it a little bit easier to set up progress. Something that ends up being like just a little bit of a problem with them is like being able to put out enough DPS, especially to stop bosses. So Wildenton, anything that can that can shore that up is worthwhile.
I could do that when I had really ridiculous either quick multi-strike builds through lots of Animus, or when I had really, really powerful spike builds with some artifacts that helped with them.
Moving on to the Stygian Guard. This one took a while to grow on me, but I ended up really liking it. So this is the first one that you have to unlock. You unlock it by casting spells. It'll be the first one that you get, most likely, because you're going to be casting so many more spells than you are summoning units. and casting so many more spells than you are killing things. These are aquatic creatures, like sirens and serpents and stuff like that. They guarded the river Styx. And they're focused on spells and other kinds of arcane damage. Specifically, they have kind of exclusive access to damage over time, which makes them a little bit more complex and a little bit more for the long game within a particular battle than the other two factions are.
Yeah. This is my least favorite clan.
Right.
They were fun. I had fun with these guys. I maxed them out, but this is my least favorite kind of play style. Because they have two kind of signature effects. One of which I like quite a bit, which is Frostbite. That is a DPS. That degrades over time, and then spell weakness, which I had a really hard time making work for me. This is, if they have a stack of this on them, they'll take double damage from a spell, and then it will degrade. So they'll just take double damage from spells for quite a while. When you said complicated, that's really, these guys are very dependent.
Yeah.
Not very many of these units work well on their own.
Right.
You really need to have, if you're going to be doing a spell weakness build, you have to have a lot of direct damage spells. And they have a good number of direct damage spells, but they're all kind of fiddly.
Yeah.
Like there are a lot of does 90 damage to 3 random units. Or 20 damage to 2 random units, things like that.
Yeah.
So I ended up just having kind of bad luck with these jabronis.
I wouldn't call them jabronis. Come on.
Aqua jabronis.
So yeah, I ended up having a little bit better use for spell weakness. One thing that you need to do is be really aggressive about pruning your weaker spells, especially from your allied clan when it comes to that, because spell weakness on, like, say you're playing a Hellhorn and you've got the basic torch spell, it's like, okay, cool, I'm doubling my 2 damage spell. 4 damage. Ooh, I'm in Fat City now. Yeah. It's like, nah, you don't want to do that. You want the one that the Stygian Guard card that has that deals 25 damage twice, right? So suddenly you're dealing 100. It works.
Yeah, it can definitely work. It just didn't comport very well with like how I wanted to play.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like funless. It was just the least of them.
Frostbite is really neat because it deals 1 damage for 1 damage per frostbite stack. When combat is resolved, it will degrade 1 stack each turn. Although you've got to be keeping an eye out for the Cuttlefish Beard, which will stop frostbite from degrading. Certain specialties and certain units, if you play specifically for a frostbite build, they don't stand a chance. They won't die on the floor that you're on, like where they actually take the initial damage, but they will be dead by the time they reach the top.
Yeah, they eventually die. And this ended up being early on a pretty consistent way to beat the final boss for me, is getting a lot of frostbite units and just stacking frostbite on her.
Yeah.
Every chance I could. And just, letting those empty turns where she would just go and like menace a floor that didn't have anybody on. And just let her take damage during that.
Yeah.
This also gives you access to Sap, which is a debuff. So it reduces the amount of damage an enemy will do to you. This also decays. They have special units that are totem units, which usually only have 1 health and no attack, but they have an incant ability. So whenever you cast a spell on that floor, something will happen. There. So you're going to be casting on spells. That's very useful. And then something I wanted to find more useful than I did. Yeah. This clan also has access to Frozen, which takes a card and keeps it in your hand between turns.
Yeah. It ends up being a little bit less useful because you can't really control what ends up being frozen, with the exception of like a low-level spell that lets you select the card that will end up being frozen. There's just a bunch of times where it ends up with something relatively useless.
Train sword.
Yeah, that ends up being frozen, like something you would have probably just drawn again anyway, So it's unreliable in a certain way.
And usually, if I was going to cast it, I would have cast it.
Yes.
So yeah, I didn't end up finding that super useful, but there might be something I'm missing. The first champion for this clan is called Tethys Titan's Bane, who's a tiny little, merjerk. Like he's got some churlish impness.
Yeah. Looks like
a real shit-eating grin.
Looks like Stitch to me. It's
like dark Stitch.
Hi, I'm evil Stitch.
Yeah, it's like something like Biker Stitch. Give me something in Biker Uncle Stitch. And sexy Aunt Leela. So this little tiny like definition of glass cannon has really, really low health, will die in one hit for most everything. And that means you have to be very careful about sweep. Like if the enemy has sweep and can hit everything, you're kind of fucked.
Yeah.
But can become like incredibly powerful. Either through Chillwind, which is the build I did the most for her, which gives her really increased attack, like makes her powerful, but then also applies just tons of frostbite.
Yeah.
At the final upgrade, it's 40 to the attacked unit, and that's just
It's ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Something that is a little bit less useful, well, it's more specialized, let's say. Conduit, the build here, makes your damage spells cost less ember. The fact that it is just damage spells actually makes this a little bit less useful because a lot of your damage will be coming from buffs, even as the Stygian Guard. This does end up becoming a little bit useful because a lot of your spells become free. But this feels like it has a bit of a higher cap on it, lower ceiling on it. Rather. Yeah.
You'd really have to call the shitty spells from your deck and increase your card draw to make this work, I think. And I also don't know that this would be overpowered if it was just spells.
Yeah.
You know, because like if you're playing this build, you're mostly using damage spells anyway. But give me those utility spells for free.
Yeah.
You know, tempt me. And then the third build is handheld totem, which the creature gets sweep. I usually like to multi-class into this even when I'm doing frostbite.
Yep.
To give frostbite to everything, and give spell weakness to everything. So the idea here is like anything on Tethys's floor will become weak to spells. So you can unload those damage spells.
You know, or it will like you can after the attack, it means that you will be doing double damage the next turn when they're a little bit further up. So you do this at the bottom. You know, just like with everything, you do the initial attack at the bottom to get a benefit when you attack them later, either by passive GOT or by having these double effectiveness on the damage spells. Yeah.
Their exiled champion's real weird. Solgard the Martyr, who is a mage. He has no damage, but every time you cast a spell, it gains a shard.
Yeah.
You put a little token on it, and this powers its various special abilities. It's 3 builds.
Yeah, like these shards act as multipliers for all of these things, including one that I have no idea what the actual use for it would be.
Which one is that?
Titan Channel. Like, all right, so you can do damage to phased things. There's only one encounter where I deal with anything phased, right?
The idea for that one is that it's a really powerful upgrade, and you have to cast spells to unlock this like beast. So like it's, you know, with Titan Channel, you know, it starts out as phased. If you give 4 stacks of shard to Solgard, it's no longer phased, so it can attack. And then you also get plus 45 attack and 40 health for that. And then the final upgrade for it is 210 attack and 205 health.
Okay.
So you just have to cast a lot of spells to kind of unleash this like big beefy monster is the idea.
Okay.
I didn't like that either. I just didn't, you know, I get what it's trying to do, but it wasn't very useful to me. I didn't like spell builds very much.
No. A little bit more straightforward is Dire Channel, which you know each round you deal damage based on your shard level to the front enemy in a row. So it's basically just an attack. You do not have an attack. It activates by this kind of resolve, this resolve trigger.
Yeah, the more spells you've cast. And then there's a Cold Channel, which is basically Frostbite. That's multiplied by shards, which is fine, but not as fun as Tethys's. Just, you know, Herculean frostbite stacks. Solgard is probably my least favorite champion in the game. I had a hard time with Solgard.
Had a hard time finding synergies with her that were not apparent with Tethys, honestly.
Yep. Tethys is a solid bro, even though he's a little shit. Moving on to my 2 favorite clans, the most interesting ones that they unlock. These are great. The Umbra, which are just really, really cool. These are unlocked as you summon friendly units. And these are like venoms. They're like abyss creatures.
Yeah. That used to be used to mine the depths of hell, but now they're they're up here trying to get things unfrozen. And I initially, just like with the other unlocked clan or the final clan, I was like, okay, how in the world am I going to use this? Like, this does not seem like anything I've done up to this point in the game because their focus is on eating. They're hungry boys, and they have a special unit type that caters to this. These morsels is what they are. So at the end of the round, any morsels that are still alive on a floor will be eaten by the frontmost unit. And you have different varieties of morsels that you can summon that will give different buffs.
Yeah, and you're not really in your hand. You don't have morsel cards. One of the things that makes this like almost have to be a video game. Like you could do this in tabletop, but you oftentimes play a card that gives you a random morsel and adds it to your deck just for that battle. So it's not like it's not like Imps where you want to load up your deck full of morsels. You want to get these morsel generators so they don't take up space before you end up actually casting them.
Yeah,
really. So there's a couple other things that are unique to this. This is the Lifesteal clan, which is what it sounds like. That's really powerful.
Yeah.
Just incredibly powerful. This is where you're going to get your big beast other than the ones in the Hellhorned. This is the other like mammoth dude.
Yeah.
Kind of thing, like big attack power. And then you can have things like the morsel will provide a unit a benefit, and then also enemy creatures can have gorge, which they get a benefit when they eat, so they get kind of double benefits.
Some of the drawbacks to this, so your units are going to get very powerful very, very quickly. One of the drawbacks is you're going to get very few units. It seems like when you play as Umbra, either in your main or in your secondary, you have fewer Umbra banners on the map for getting these. At least that's what I found. However, they do end up getting strong quickly, and also this is the clan that I saw that had the permanent buffs over a run.
Yeah. Wax dudes have those as well.
Yeah.
I didn't end up getting fewer units of these guys, but I can kind of see in some ways why it might feel like that because they tend to be bigger.
Yeah.
Like this is the clan which space concerns are a big concern.
Yeah.
Because you need to have these morsels here, which generally won't attack. Sometimes they have minor attack abilities, but generally they're just there to take up space to power up your units.
Yeah.
This is the clan that buffs up an individual creature.
Yes.
You also can get different kind of spell shield and damage shield from morsels or just from these units, which are what they sound like.
Yeah.
And are really powerful as well.
Yeah. Just completely negating one whole type of damage, which is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And both the champions of this are really fun.
I had so much fun just playing with playing with Penumbra. Specifically, it felt a little bit like, I was only, unlocking this means you're only like halfway through the game, at least, on the initial unlock or whatever. It felt a little bit like getting a superpower at the end of the game and then just going through and doing and stomping on stuff.
All of his abilities multi-class really well.
Yeah.
I love this guy. This is one of my, probably my favorite champion in the game, or him or Little Flame.
Yeah.
Just absolutely super fun. So there are 3 different upgrades for this, all of which are really interesting for this big lanky Venom dude. Architect, which makes the floor that he's on have much more space.
Yeah.
At level 3, you get 4 more units of space, which is huge.
Yeah, basically
That's,
double.
4 bonus morsels plus whatever you put there. That's incredible. So every turn, if he's in the front row and he's tanking, he's going to be eating 4 units and just like getting absolutely swole.
Yeah. So put him up there, take a morsel maker, and take any artifact or benefit, which doubles the amount of morsels on summon. And every turn you're going to be getting, I think, at least 3 or 4 new little buffs that come in. It's huge.
Yeah, just incredible. Monstrous, which is really fun, which makes him big, which is kind of a bummer, but he's much bigger, much more health, much more damage, and he gets trample, which works just like magic. So if he overkills the first unit, that damage will overflow to the second, and so on.
Yes. Love trample. And even just applying that as a spell or buying that as an upgrade is super neat. And then finally, Glutton, which gains Lifesteal. Your successful attacks will heal damage for you. And on Gorge, it gains attack, power, and health. Again, like there's no real ceiling on that. You're going to gorge as much as you can every single turn that you have.
So doing a common, like you could, if the game would allow you to do one of every 3 or one of each upgrade, it would actually work pretty well.
Yeah.
Really, a common thing I would do is 1 level of Architect and 2 levels of Glutton.
Yeah.
So I was getting the life steal, which keeps your guy alive, and then +9 attack and +4 health every time I would devour a thing, and 2 more spaces to put morsels to devour.
Yeah.
Morsels are free. You might pay a card to generate a morsel, but the morsel is always free.
Yeah.
And once it's in your deck, it will just play for free.
Yes.
Then the second champion is also like endlessly clever. Like, what a cool inversion of this clan's thing.
Yeah. What if instead of eating, he was there to be eaten, like that fungus monster on Aqua Teen Hunger Force?
Yeah. This is Primordium. Really, really neat. He has mediocre stats, like he's not very good, but you're meant to pair him with a strong other unit. It's really interesting because he kind of makes any other unit your champion, essentially.
Yeah.
So there are certain, like, we talk about the champions a lot. They are by no means the only, powerful units. You can build a whole deck around a lot of different creatures.
Yeah.
So you can choose, like, hey, this creature is really great. He's gonna be Primordium's, companion, longtime companion for this run.
I love that the status effect that he has that lets him be eaten multiple times is called Buffet.
Yeah, he's just a big boy.
Yeah.
Like, rally around the family, like pull up a stool. It's neat.
I have several servings, like a Chipotle burrito.
And the name of the build that he has that emphasizes that is called Stalwart Snack. That's real good.
Yeah.
So he can, he starts out with Buffet 3, which means he can be eaten 3 times. If you have a Stalwart Snack build, he can be eaten 5 times, 8 times, and 12 times. And when he's eaten, they get his stats added to them, which is just 3 and 3. But at the final level, that's really powerful. You put him in the back as somebody, and they're getting +3/+3 every turn.
Yeah,
for 12
and
turns.
You can use spells and stuff to buff him up, and every time he gets eaten, if you have raised those up, then that will be thrown in. So it's a way for you to, again, just up the multiplier, which is what you're always looking to do. Superfood plays into that. You gain health. And when you're eaten, that's what it will confer the status effect over to the eater. Yeah.
It also allows you to get damage shield eventually, inherently. So not only will he survive, but whoever eats him will get the damage shield.
Yes.
And then aggressive edible, which is the one I ended up using the most, which just buffs his attack.
Yeah.
So, you get +37 attack 3 times, with this guy. You put that on these guys. This guy works really well with the Awoken. Put one of those sweep units with a very high defense in front of this guy.
Yeah.
And by the end, he'll be an absolute beast. Really, really cool. And then the final one, my favorite one, is the last clan, the Melting Remnant, which is the most complicated, but also just endlessly inventive and fun.
Yeah, it's fun and also really powerful. I don't know if it's just because this is the last clan you get. It's unlocked as you kill enemies, and it's kind of high. Like I unlocked this after maybe 12 hours of play, something like that. I don't know if I was just good at the game at this point. I beat the first run that I tried with the Melting Remnant. Not like this is a very hard game, but like usually when I started a new clan, I would get to like the 7th battle or so. I would get like partway through. But this feels really powerful. And these are those wax mobsters.
Yes. So just combining 2 things for some reason. They're either wicked or wickless. And if they are wicked, then they have a specific mechanic called burnout, which means that they have a countdown. Like if they have burnout 1, they're around for 1 round, and then once burnout counts down, then they die.
Yeah.
But this is counteracted by them having mold or reform as a mechanic, which when you bring back an enemy, it gets +1 burnout and increased stats.
Yes.
So the idea here is that enemies your characters don't stay dead. You are constantly recycling them, letting them die, and bringing them back more powerful temporarily.
Yes. The fact that they come back with burnout 1, that applies even if they are not wicked. So Like
they become wicked.
Yes, they become wicked over the course of the process.
Yeah.
Over the course of that process of being reformed as these little wax boys. But like, it's a huge deal when death isn't really much of a setback. We talked earlier about like, yeah, a couple of bad early deaths will take your will really set you back because you run out of units to even play over the course of a longer battle. Not the case here. You are overwhelming them with numbers.
Yeah. Yeah. These units tend to be cheap, aggressive, and not take up very much space.
Yes.
And a lot of their mechanics revolve around things happening when they die. So it's usually called extinguish. So that's either like if the unit dies and has extinguish, something happens to it when it dies. And then, that will be in a play when it comes back. Or it will extinguish, and like one of my favorite units for this is the bomb. The little 0 attack 1 health thing that blows up does 50 damage when it gets extinguished. This getting reformed over and over to just continuously get killed and get a little damage on its way out and always blow up in the face of the first person is really fun.
Yeah, there are also many units in this where when they die, they don't just go into the consumed pile. They fill they add 2 weaker units or multiple weaker units into your deck. So the idea is that they don't come back the way that they were, but like it's a little bit like a Sorcerer's Apprentice kind of thing, where a big one is cut in half and comes back as 2 weaker things. Yeah.
This is also the clan that uses stealth. You have stealth as an effect, which doesn't allow you to be hit. That's it's very powerful.
Yeah.
Counts down with every action. And both of the champions are really fun. For this team. I think not every build for them, but they are really cool.
Yeah.
So the first one you get is called Rector Flicker. I would not have named him that.
No.
I think the Rector Flicker just doesn't...
Probably the Flicker Vicar?
Flicker Vicar, or I don't know, Rector Flicker. I don't like... even Flicker Vicar, I don't know that I would like.
Yeah.
It's just a little, a little too silly. But he is this priestly mob leader, as you have, who gain power by playing the factions of the melts each other. And he summons as like a decent unit for combat and has really cool little effects. Burn Bright makes him extremely powerful, but he has a burnout effect. So he'll die after 3 rounds. So he is somebody you deploy either like for the boss, or you use things that increase his burnout.
Yeah.
Or you reform him.
Yeah.
To increase his burnout.
There are some natural choices. There are units that on attack will add burnout cards to basically charge up, gas up any other enemy that is here, or any other unit that you have who has burnout. So you can keep him alive. Basically, I would end with 10, 15 burnout on him when I played him that way. Accumulator is pretty neat on Harvest. So whenever any unit on the floor dies, he gains attack and health. This is especially, a big deal because you got, this is a clan that's all about death, right? So as people die, he gets more powerful. It's going to happen quite frequently.
Yeah. And then my favorite of these, the one I had the best luck with, was Dark Calling. At the end of every turn, you can reform 2 random units with they get a bonus of +5 attack. On top of their normal reform bonus. So this will continue. You put this guy on the top floor, you just have him hang out there by himself and start just having enemies die on the lower floor. And eventually you are just continuously redrawing more powerful versions of even your train stewards will become like 30, 40, 40, 50 style, monsters.
Wildly overpowered.
Yeah. Really, really cool. Really fun.
Yeah.
And then Little Fade, who seems like he, kind of hard to understand at first. And also he's Tiny Tim, like he's an artful dodger.
Yeah.
I don't know what the city is that the wax people are in.
I don't know. It's a Yankee Candle store.
Yeah, exactly. It's the Southern, the Rebellion candle store. Enough Yankee candles. The Southern Candles will rise again. This guy is a support unit, but has my favorite build for him is we'll talk about, which makes him incredibly powerful and not a support unit at all. He starts out, he has very low starting health, which is 1 base heart. and it's hard for him to increase that.
Yes.
We didn't mention this before, but when you upgrade your units, you can't upgrade your champion. In this, so it's not like something you can just pour all your buffs onto your champion.
Right. I like that. I think that's a good decision. Keeping your keeping your champion static like that is
you're not just like idea. Putting all using Charizard to beat Pokemon.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the first of these, or one of the variants you can get, is called Little Icarus. You gain 1 stack of spikes, and when she kills an enemy unit, she gains attack damage and extra permanent spikes. It's weird, right? Because she has such low health, adding spikes on like that. It's almost like like if you are going to attack me, I'm going to take you out, and she is meant to come back over time, right?
Yeah, not built in to come back, but you want to reform.
Yeah.
Her. I found this hard to work with. You have to, the fact that it's not on strike or on extinguish, the fact that she has to land the killing blow made this really tough because her starting attack is only 5.
Yeah.
So, having her have to do this on slay, I found this really difficult to use.
Yeah.
I think the idea is by the end of the game, she has this incredible stack of spikes.
Yeah.
And we'll just really put a big chunk in the boss, but I had a hard time making it work. Firelight, so when she dies, she buffs all your other units, giving them +5 attack, +5 health, and then burnout 2 to them. So the idea here is that she dies, you'll keep reforming her, putting her in the thing and having her extinguish. And there's artifacts that make extinguish effects happen twice.
Yeah.
Which can make this really powerful.
Yeah. And finally, Eternal Flame. This is ridiculous. She becomes
this is incredible.
Yeah, she becomes endless. Like this subverts the death and reforming process for them. So endless. When she dies, she just goes back into the deck, right?
Yep. It goes back into your hand. Like you just get her back.
Yeah.
At this point. So, and when that happens, you get an increased cost. Like the champions are usually 0, but she gets +1 cost every level of this, but also gets +25 attack and 5 health, +70 attack, 5 health, +140 attack, +5 health. One of the most ridiculous runs I had was I had the extinguish abilities fire twice things, and just had Little Fade die, 5 or 6 times in the thing, getting 140 or 280 attack every time. Just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
Little Fade's real fun with specifically with that build. The other ones I don't like nearly as much.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some of the stuff you're going to be fighting.
Yeah,
here.
Round out here with the enemies and the bosses. It's hard to talk about individual enemies because their mix-ups are much more important than what those are. As I mentioned before, every round you're attacked by these gangs, and they have like little flavor text describing like, oh, they've got a bunch to prove, and it gives you and their tactic is to protect this particular unit. Gives you a little bit of information about how to approach them. But the enemy mix is going to evolve over the course of their waves, right? So
yes,
they'll send in their vanguards and then come up the rear with their bosses. Generally, is how it goes.
Yep. Yeah. And these are themed. So like as you mentioned before, they're gangs and they have individual mix-ups, but like this is the armor group, this is the spikes group, this is the stealth group.
Yeah.
Things like that. Like they'll be based around specific status effects. There are enemies that have their conduit enemies, so they have haste. That's a enemy specific status effect, which allows them to skip floors. And since there's only 3 floors, they're going to be going on. Well, I mean, I guess they can skip up to the 4th floor.
Yeah.
I've only ever had haste take them from 1 to 3.
Yeah.
Not 2 to 4.
Haste is an emergency that completely changes the order that I have to build up my floors. Yeah.
Yeah. Take them out. Yeah. And then there are clipped variants of enemies that are stronger, like champion versions.
Yes. Yeah. So each battle has a boss, and then a couple of times, 3 times per round per run, you're going to be fighting major bosses. There are a lot of just round bosses that you go for. They're at the end of the wave of normal enemies. Like, it kind of only makes sense to name a few that are notable, or at least some of the aspects that are especially pernicious with them. So, like, anytime a boss adds a Scourge card to your hand is a really big problem.
Yeah,
when they show up.
A lot of these Scourge cards, they're not just dead weight. They're cards that cost Ember, and if you don't get rid of them, they do damage directly to your Pyre.
Yes.
And this can be a huge deal. This could be a thing that costs 2, and if you don't pay it, will do 5 damage to your Ember, which starts out at 80. Like, so that's pretty significant.
Yeah, I mean, it also cuts into the opportunity cost of your draw, right? If they manage to fill your hand with 3 of these Scourge cards, you only have 2 opportunities to get a spell or a unit in the next time.
I thought these added directly to you, but I think you do have a maximum hand size.
Yeah.
But I thought these added on top of your draw. I could be wrong about that. But it's a bummer. Like, there are emergencies. You want to get rid of them if you can. And then Crystal Cloak is really horrible. This is the guy who has stealth. So for a certain number of turns, they're not targetable, which is really hard when they start at the bottom of the train and make their way up.
Yeah.
What I would end up doing is putting, when I was fighting this clan, putting a lot of throwaway units on the first floor to burn off that stealth.
Yeah.
And then saving my high value units for the top of the floor, which we didn't really talk about this, but you get more experience the sooner you kill the boss.
Yeah.
In things, if you can kill the boss on the first or second floor, it's always advantageous, and you lose experience for having your Pyre take damage.
Yeah.
So when you're messing with the metagame, like, that's really important to kind of keep an eye on that stuff.
Yes. And the last one I made a note of here is the Self-Made Harpy, which has multi-strike 4, which I think means it attacks 5 times.
It attacks 5 times with 4 damage. So it's only 20 damage, but things like damage shield or things that wear off per attack. But it also means spikes are incredibly effective against her.
Yeah.
So there's ways to counter that, but you don't really know which individual mini bosses you're going to be getting. You just really know about the major bosses you're getting.
Yeah.
So,
let's talk about those major bosses. There are 5 total bosses in the game. They all have these variants known as battle effects. The encounters for them all work out kind of the same way. They will fly up and down between the levels outside of the train while the initial waves are coming through, and then in the final round they will progress up the train as normal. When they're flying outside the train during the battle, they're going to be buffing enemies, attacking, or summoning units to attack your units. Kind of going up and down and making your life hell depending on which of the bosses it is.
Yeah. And let's go through them. There are 2 for each, the first 2 nodes, and then there's the final boss. So the first node, you're either going to get Daedalus or Talos. Daedalus is a nerd. He's coded as a chubby inventor. He's like Dr. Octopus, but with wings. These are humans that are stranded in hell after the Armageddon on Heaven's side. And each turn, he goes to a floor and spawns an explosive.
Yeah.
If this explosive isn't destroyed, it will damage every unit on the floor, or sometimes damage twice, depending on which variant he has. So the double barrel, he explodes. Does 2 explosives. The explosive sigil, when enemies are defeated, your front unit takes 1 damage. That is tough. And then plating seal, which explosives have a damage shield, which means you have to attack them twice to stop the explosion. And explosions are always in the back as well.
Yes.
So that is a concern. If you don't have direct damage, this can be a real pain in the ass.
Yeah. You're helped out by the fact that both Daedalus and Talos, both of these level 3 bosses, end up having very low health. As you end up going through them. Also, Daedalus will spend a good deal of the battle. You can counter him by really just developing 1 floor toward the start. Doesn't work for some clans, like probably not a real viable thing if you have the Stygian Guard or the Awoken. But if he is going up and dropping explosives on empty floors, well, then he just wasted that turn. And then you can develop the upper floors when he gets into the rush mode at the end.
Yeah. It's also worth noting you can hurt these enemies before they go into rush mode. I talked about that earlier, getting the bonus for that, but this guy is good for that.
Yes.
If he's throwing explosives up there and you have tough, tanky units, or units that have sweep, or you're playing as the melting remnant, so you can throw units away.
Mm-hmm.
Putting units on there to tank a hit from the bomb and then getting in a hit on this guy will do really good work. Or if you're playing with a Stygian guard, stacking frostbite on him early will be really effective.
Mm-hmm.
Talos is the other boss that can appear on the third battle. This is a human with crystal wings made of these shards. Just another angel allied with Arcus and Seraph here. And what she does is she buffs enemies that are summoned on the floor. She moves towards and then gets stronger over the course of the battle through triggered buffs. So when you do things on her floor, she gets more powerful for the end.
Yes. The three different variants, you got empowering offense. So any units entering come in with rage, and she gains armor whenever an enemy is slain. Really tough to deal with, especially if you have not developed this early in a run, an ability to do a lot of DPS to get over that armor specifically. Rage is, whatever. The protective sin, enemies spawn with armor. And Talos ends up attacking every turn instead of just being a buff, and will push your front unit to the back. Big problems.
Yeah, huge problem. Talos is way harder than Daedalus.
Oh, yeah.
In this, every single time. And then Soul Sucker, which friendly units spawn, your units spawn with sap. Which means they do less damage. That degrades over time, but at first they're doing significantly less damage.
Yeah.
And then she attacks every turn and applies Dazed, which takes up a turn, stuns your guys for a turn. All three of those variants suck. Talos is not that hard because Talos doesn't have very many hit points, but much harder than Daedalus.
Yes.
You're hoping for Talos.
Yeah, Dazed is super powerful when you can apply it to the enemy, but it's also really powerful when it applies to you, which is weird because it doesn't feel like Sap does very much to enemies, but it always is a real wet blanket when it's thrown on you.
Yeah,
no good.
Fucks you up.
Yeah. Going on to the sixth battle bosses. That's tough to say. We've got Fel, the Wings of Light. She is an angel who was betrayed by Seraph. Had her wings clipped, but she managed to make her own wings out of light, and is trying to kind of re-earn her place in Seraph's ranks. She is really tough because at the beginning of the battle, she spawns these alabaster guardians, these statues that are built in the image of her before she is clipped. Those are at the front of the ranks always. Any new enemies come in behind them. And this means that you have to take them out, or else the enemies will just skip their way up to your pyre. Yeah,
they'll skip to my loo, my darling.
So angry.
These I thought you liked getting caught in the rain. You said you liked pina coladas. So these guys are a bummer. They're pretty tanky too. They start with 75 base health. The variants are the Eternal Crest, which the Guardians have spell shield, so they're immune to one use of a spell, and she empowers them with armor, which gives them physical buff, basically makes them hardier blockers. The Scouring Crest, which Fel and all of her allies add Scourge cards to your deck.
Big deal.
Big deal. Those are those ones we mentioned that you have to get rid of there. And then Wrathful Crest, which the Guardians attack. They have multi-strike, and Fel gives all of her units rage.
Yeah.
The Guardians having multi-strike is a bummer because they start on every floor. So it's not going to be a threat to your pyre, but enemies or your units will be on the back foot.
It can be really hard to develop a floor if enemies that you're putting there, especially like morsels and stuff like that in particular is really a kind of a counter against the Umbra, and even a little bit again if you're doing like an imp build kind of thing.
Yeah.
The other one, Arcus. So Arcus and Talos were added in the DLC. Prior, you would only fight Daedalus and Fel. That is also a really big deal for free DLC. Yeah. We should mention that. Arcus is your other option, as opposed to Fel. He is Fel's forsaken exiled brother. He's this angel who has fallen. He still has his wings, but he is darkened. And every floor that he moves to, he will summon a shard at the back of the ranks. These shards cannot be attacked because they have the phased status effect on them, and they apply extremely powerful debuffs on you.
Yeah. Really, really kind of a pain. The first shard is the Sin of Failure, or creates the Looming Dark Shard, which makes spells more important, more expensive on that floor, which is kind of good. Like that, depending on what kind of build you have, this is pretty manageable. And then the Shattering Dark Shard, which gives you a Scourge card that damages your pyre, which you mentioned how those are a pain.
Yes.
The Sin of Shadow, which is the Blinding Dark Shard, which gives daze to your units, a huge pain in the ass. And then the Shattering Dark Shard, which gives you the Scourge, as we mentioned. And then the Sin of Darkness, which gives you the daze and the looming. So it's basically those three different types in three different combinations.
Yeah, any of them that do not have the daze. So you want to get the Sin of Failure, because the daze is a real problem whenever it shows up. I mean, the debuff only applies to whatever floor the shard is on, and the shard despawns after each round. But if you're relying on any kind of attacks as opposed to like passive damage or spells, getting the one that does daze will completely neuter you for an entire round.
Yeah, daze sucks.
Yes.
It's really tricky. And your ability to daze enemies is limited.
Yes.
There are some cards that do it, but no clan has a lot of daze spells. There are dedicated daze, but you don't get very many of them, I find.
Yeah, there's the powerful artifacts. Like, one that made a huge difference for me was enemy units have a 50% chance to enter the train with daze. Yeah.
That's incredible. Yeah. Well, and also the one that makes enemy units dazed when they get into your pyre.
Yeah.
That's really good, because you can lit weak enemies up there until the cow comes home. Go up there, man. Get fucked. Like it's angry.
Yeah.
The center of my train is pissed. That one's really, really good. And then the final boss is always Seraph here. Seraph Industries.
Okay.
God, I was trying to do
you were doing Deus Ex.
Well, but I blanked on the name of the protagonist from Deus Ex Human Revolution.
Adam
he's not JC
Jensen?
Denton, he's Adam. So that was what I was going to do. That if you want to edit this at home, just put in the, not you, Cole, but other people are listening to this, put that Adam right after I said Seraph Industries.
Okay, cool.
Adam.
Okay. You're saying it like the warrant.
Yeah. Except it's how Seraph says Adam.
Yeah.
Jensen. Adam. Jensen. Adam.
At least he needs braces.
Adam. Dental plan. Jensen. Adam.
Keep
Seraph
going.
sucks.
It's good.
I can't. My throat's sore.
Okay.
Now. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I'm very surprised that kind of put a number on my throat.
Yeah. Seraph is a huge villain. I mean, all you have to do is look at what he attempted to do, which is genocide on all of hell. All of the lore just kind of points to like their basic, like, hell is not actually like a bad place full of bad people. Seraph just attacked because it was a doctrinal thing. Sucks, bad, worth killing them. And there are 4 variants as opposed to 3. Each of them has their own name modifier. So Seraph the Chaste, Seraph the Diligent, Seraph the Patient, Seraph the Temperate, and these individual variants are hard counters to particular kinds of builds that you would be taking to them.
Yeah, and Seraph is no joke.
Right.
Even if you're not playing a build that gets countered.
Yeah.
Seraph is really hard. Seraph has tons of HP. Yeah, just an absolute, just amazing amount of HP. So you have to have your DPS game, really, really on point. And most of the variants have multi-strike. So it's going to be doing a lot of damage to you.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the different variants.
Yeah.
They also have the personal guards, like the like glass cannon personal guards that are like multi-strike 10 with 3 health. Yeah. That just pop up every time they show up. And those things also suck.
Which ends up being more of a big deal for your DPS than anything. By the time you're here, you have lots of units. It doesn't matter so much if 1 or 2 of them die. But like, if any of these personal guards come in with their multi-strike, they will just take away anybody who would actually do damage to Seraph in the run as it goes. You're even at Covenant level 0, when we say like a ton of HP, like Daedalus at Covenant level 0 has 250 HP. By the time you get to Seraph, Covenant level 0, the base one has 999. which is a lot.
It just goes up from there too. So there'll be different emblems. The purifying emblem, we mentioned all buffs and debuffs are halved. If you're doing a buff build, obviously this is a big deal. The power drain build is the one I tended to like. Because I didn't do a lot of spell builds. But it is a huge deal. The first spell you play each round gets consumed, which means it gets removed from your deck. That can, if you cannot, if you're doing Stygian Guard and this is your creature, or this is the Seraph you're going to fight, you need to build for Frostbite.
Yes.
Because you'll be fucked otherwise.
The rallying emblem. So he will get stronger anytime you play a card. So on rally and on incant, they will get stronger. And also this is the version of Seraph that will attack each round, not just at the end. And will apply melee weakness to the front of your unit. That is devastating when you get the you get the rallying emblem on that. It's not good at all.
Yeah, it's really hard. Like if you're doing a spell build, you could probably handle it. You're still going to get attacked by her a lot, but if you're doing lots of spells, you can probably counter this. Melee weakness means that when you get hit, you take double damage. So this is like a champion killer. Like this is designed to fuck up your champion. And then the prideful emblem, which your units enter with sap 3, which is -6 attack that turns into -4, which turns into -2. This counters if you're doing lots of small units. They will do like nothing basically until they get destroyed. And it's a big deal even for regular units. It makes everybody a little bit worse.
Yeah, and you can notice a theme across all of these. Like all of them make Seraph more survivable as they go up as he goes up the train. It ends up being a race, and again, you do not want to get up to the pyre. You don't want anybody to get up to the pyre, any of the bosses, because you then end up doing the panic math. Okay, he does. I have 100. I have 100 health remaining. He does 20. I do 25. Will I actually outlast him? Can I squeak this out?
Big tough boss. Like I've gotten a few wins in this for a few wins in a row, but it's by no means, it's not like Isaac for me where I can like win most runs.
I've definitely won many of the rounds, but never in a row, often because I would end up switching covenants. Like I didn't spend a lot of time playing covenants in a row because like I really prize the variety in this. And
that's kind of Monster Train.
It is. What a treat.
Really, really fun game. Like what a delight. And talking about it makes me want to play it, even though I've unlocked all the stuff. I'm just like, Penumbra. I'd go for a Penumbra, morsel unit, or like, what happens if I mix the guy who can be eaten with a different clan? It's probably pretty incredible with like the Hellhorn champion and a shield. Like some kind of shield unit, like an imp shield that can go in front, so you can just kind of keep getting eaten. On top of everything. Like there's just, I love those synergies. I love those little like combinations that work together. It's very impressive, and it tickles a part of my brain in like a really specific way.
And it's not something that we talked about an awful lot, but the fact that you are gaining experience on everything and you're leveling up 2 clans at once every time you play means that you're going to be unlocking stuff really, really quickly. This is a game that goes out of its way to reward you with new things to play with, which is a huge deal. As a gamer who likes treats, I definitely appreciate that. But also, if I'm going to be putting a bunch of time into this, it's nice to be able to feel like I'm making progress. Go back to the Gungeon episode and talk about how that is something that, per game, depending on your gamer psychographic, could make you bounce off of a roguelike like this. I can see somebody who, really likes roguelikes or roguelites because of their longevity, how Monster Train might not be, there for them. Like it might not be enough because they're looking for something they can play for hundreds of hours. And this is something that shows you what it has to show you within 25 or 30, So I could see like why somebody would bounce off of this. But for me, who just like likes finding the ways that these systems interact with each other and, kind of I'm playing to find different ways to succeed spectacularly. Monster Train affords you that opportunity with some frequency. And it becomes really satisfying, even as somebody who doesn't generally go for the structure of game very often.
It's a really great, non-permanent game.
Yeah.
Like I don't need to play this over and over like Isaac and get like thousands of hours in it, but I will do every expansion.
Yeah.
That does. Like if they introduce new content, new clans or new champions, I will play those for basically the foreseeable.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'm going to like covenant up to level 25.
Probably
with
not.
this, like, even though it is fun, but I don't think I'm going to go that far with it. I was really happy with the fact that I played this, probably, not counting the Steam thing, probably 35 hours, and was a joy like the whole time. It was fun.
Yeah.
The whole time. That's really fucking cool. Even in terms of like, it not being, we're doing this with this month with The Last of Us and Outer Wilds. Outer Wilds probably a better game than this, but way more friction and less like treat like this is having a piece of cake. And I like desserts. I'm not fucking made of stone. Give me a tasty treat, I'll eat it.
Yeah.
Like every once in a while I want like a semi-empty calorie. I need the sweet treats, I need the baklava. No cane sugar, honey. So, yeah, a real sweet treat of a game.
Yeah. No, this totally caught me off guard.
Yeah,
totally.
And yeah, what a fun feeling that is. So thank you very much, William. This was really fun. I really like this one.
Yeah.
If you want to support the show or sponsor an episode, the way you can do that is by going to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. You get bonus episodes. You get episodes a week early. You get access to the Slack. You get basically just a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's cool, and I recommend it.
Agreed. We decided, we tried to load that up with lots of value. If you aren't able to, we understand. Things are not especially good right now. But there are free ways to support us. You can leave a rating or review on Apple Podcasts or whatever directory you found us in. You can talk about us on social media, help spread the word. Go back and listen to older episodes of the show. We've done a ton of them about many different things. There's lots available here for you.
I forget things we've done, and I'll be like, man, that'd be a cool game. Because, we're kind of looking at doing, inserting some more of our own picks. And I was walking around the neighborhood and being like, man, EVO, I'd go for a replay EVO. That's cool. That'd be cool. Do that for the show. I was like, oh no, we did that in like the first.
We did that in 2013.
Yeah, that's, when we were all so young. Listen to our other shows.
Yeah.
Check out Orb. That is a episode by episode recap and discussion of the Venture Brothers, one of my all-time favorite TV shows, and that has continued to be in a light. If you like episodes like this where it is real positive, we're entering into like a kind of a positive, phase of the network where there's like a couple shows that are mostly dedicated sugar talking between what this and what's going on with Days of Future Cast and the game run around. And Orb has been consistently pretty delightful to talk about and do.
And you're kind of close to the ground floor. We are just finishing up season 1 as of the time we're recording.
So we'll be doing that wrap up and everything. We'll start season 2, new guest, new everything. So it's the same theme music and announcer.
Well, so, yeah, of course.
New some things.
New some things. Yeah.
Anything else?
No, not that I can think of. Watch out for Seraph the Patient.